What are your top 3 values? What are the top 3 things that are most important to you? You've tuned in to When Your Mind Becomes the Scene of the Crime podcast. I'm Dr. Linda F. Williams. I take survivors of abuse and trauma from pain to purpose so that you take back your power, tap into the truth of who you are, and live your best life now. So I don't have a clue where I'm going with this, but I just keep thinking about years ago. I grew up in the country, and out in the country, nobody was waiting until they were 16 to start driving. You needed milk. You were going 12 miles or more to the store. Generally out there, a lot of the people who had farms, as soon as their kids' feet could hit the pedal, they were on those tractors or driving truck or whatever. So we started learning how to drive real early. The rite of passage was when you were 16, the daddy bought us a car. Now, we were responsible for gassing it up, keeping it maintained, so we had to get a job, yada, yada. But anyway, I was learning to drive. So my grandfather, they moved up to Michigan right behind my parents. So they lived 6-7 miles away. He must have come by the house one day, and he was going to let me drive. So as I was driving, we were on a road that was a dirt road, and the road wound around. I mean, there were like, what is this, a 90-degree angle? There were some parts of the road that went at 90-degree angles, but it was winding down and around a lake, so you needed to watch those curves. And even when you got out on the pavement, you might have to make some pretty sharp turns. And he must have noticed me, because when I'm making a turn, as young as I was looking down more toward the road directly off the right bumper, because I wanted to make sure that I stayed on the road, stayed on the curve. And he told me one day, no, don't look down there. Look ahead. So I'm thinking, look ahead. Okay. I'll just look. So just keep looking straight over the hood, but out at the road. And I noticed that my taking curves got a lot smoother. I was less white knuckle in it. I was able to maintain that curve as I kept looking ahead. Now, I still have to catch myself, and I can hear my grandfather telling me, no, look down the road. Now, I couldn't in my brain understand why looking way down there was going to have me to keep this curve in check. But it did. It was the weirdest thing. As long as I can remember to look ahead to where I'm going, instead of where I am, then the ride is a lot smoother. Now, I think the reason I'm thinking about this so much lately is because that's how we get when we're traumatized. When I was traumatized, it wound up with me having to run for my life. My trauma perpetuated over and over again because I was always in a reactionary mode. I was always trying to scramble to survive one incident or another and making decisions based on that desperation moving forward until I just got used to being in that frame of mind. But what we do when we settle in on what's important to us, which is something we seldom think about when we're in survival mode, when we think about what's important to us, such as our deeper values. What are your top 3 values? What are the top 3 things that are most important to you? Is it family? Is it your children? Is it being truthful? Is it honesty? Is it integrity? Whatever your top 3 values are, figure out what those are. Now, you will have many values. I mean, you might say you have a list of 6. Then you need to prioritize those top to bottom, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And then you want to focus on your top three, because those are the top three that are going to drive your decisions moving forward. It's going to make the difference between driving the car looking down off the right bumper and white knuckling that ride and focus it towards your future and easing into the curves and turns as you go along. So figure out what your top three values are. Just write them down, okay? And then think about past relationships, job decisions you made, that boss you had, a relationship you had, whether it was a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or a co-worker. And see how the ones that were toxic probably didn't align with your top values. Now, these are very important because when we survive trauma, we really must have guide points, GPS, roadmap, so that we can allow our top values to guide every decision we make in relationships, our careers, our life in general, because we have to have a guidepost to hold those decisions to. The guideposts will bring us out of our trauma brain, into a more objective, focused guideline by which to make our decisions. I'm going to give you a link below to a free values evaluation worksheet so you can kind of work through it. You take your time with this. This is not a race. You're not going to get graded on it, but it'll kind of give you a guideline to go by to determine what your top three values are. And once you determine that, commit to those things. Commit to those as your internal personal boundaries. Commit to those as your guidepost, your GPS along the way. Because once you lean into those aspects of who you are, then you can be in a better, more empowering position when it's time to make decisions for yourself. After you do your values evaluation, then I'm going to send you to another worksheet called your tolerations, so that you can determine what are you tolerating in your life right now. See, it's just like anybody that's been a mother of a toddler or kids, you know that you at some point get used to the background noise. And you can tune that out so that you can focus on other things. For me, I used to live next to the Chicago L. I wasn't right up against the L, but I was close enough to hear it. And eventually, living there, I just didn't even notice it. I'm sure I heard it on some level going by. Can get pretty noisy, but I just tuned it out. Now, as a mother, if you think back when you had little kids, do you remember any times where you were trying to talk on the phone or you were trying to do something and you were kind of tuning out something in the background the kids were doing, some noise they were making, but at some point it got on your nerve where you have to tell them to quiet down? It's almost like even though you don't know you're hearing that, but you are hearing that, it's still getting on your nerve regardless, okay? Well, that's how tolerations are. As trauma survivors, what we do is when we lose our voices to speak up for what we want, that we on some level settle into tolerating certain things in our lives. One, because we've lost our voice to speak up for ourselves. And two, because we just got so used to putting up with crap that it's just like, okay, that's just some more crap on top of some more crap. Not recognizing at all that we are indeed empowered to eliminate the tolerations. Okay, so I'm going to give you a link below to tolerations. Get your tolerations worksheet and work along with the side of the values worksheet I'm giving you so that you can see, okay, I'm tolerating this in my life, and none of that is aligning with the things that are important to me. And once you go through these tolerations, then you're going to have a better understanding of where you have settled in your life. You're just settling for crap. You don't have to. Okay? You really don't have to. So enjoy your tolerations worksheet and work the values worksheet first. And please comment below if you have any questions. Tell me what you came up with. Tell me what your top 3 values were after you do the values evaluation and your toleration. Shoot me some ideas about what you learned that you're tolerating. I'm Dr. Linda F. Williams, and always remember your greatest power is realizing the truth of who you are. Know that truth. Thank you for joining me today on When Your Mind Becomes the Scene of the Crime podcast. Schedule your free breakthrough session now at lindafwilliams.com. That's lindafwilliams.com.